Slides up. All right, can everyone see this? Thumbs up. I know you're all muted, so. Cool, so today we're gonna go over ways to save money on travel. We'll save money for travel. And so as a sort of disclaimer in advance, I've tried to include international resources as much as possible, but some of the tips here will be only relevant to the folks in the US or in Canada. But I've tried to make it as global as possible. But obviously I can't know every banking system and app in the world. So use the general philosophy to go with this. So today we'll talk 15 ways to cut your spending, and then I'll take questions. But mostly I sort of just want to talk around the philosophy of saving money. So that really is tip number one. I can see you all on my screen. So my first question to you is, if I were to ask you, how much money do you spend a month down to the penny? How many of you could actually give that answer? 1, 2, 3. I see 3 hands up. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of you out of, well, the people I can see. But so not a lot, right? And so when people are like, I can never afford a trip, or like I just don't have enough money, oftentimes it's just a matter of priority. Now, obviously, like some people, it will take more time than others to save for a trip, right? But I think the first thing we need to do is understand that you're never going to save money for a trip if you don't know how much money you are spending in the first place. So my first tip to everybody on how to save money is you can use an app like mint.com or like you need a budget and put in your bank account there and get a sense of where you spend money. And if you have cash, I always write down what I've spent that day, because most of the time we think, oh yeah, I know what my rent costs. I know my cell phone bill. Like we have a sense of those big fixed expenses. But as I'll talk about through this, it's the smaller like phantom expenses that really add up. That coffee you grab on the way home, that bottle of water you get, that beer you go out to friends with, the snack you get, the little things that you sort of mindlessly consume throughout the day or a week that you don't really think about as spending. But then when you look at your credit card bill, you're like, how did I spend so much money a month? And then you go through it and you're like, no, I did spend all these things. None of these are fraud. Most of it is just, you just weren't keeping track of what you were spending. So what I advise is for sort of like, a couple of weeks, really keep track of everything you spend money on. If you give $1 to a homeless guy, write that down too. Because everything, you need to get a sense of where's all your money going before you can start cutting, because you don't know what you can cut until you know where it's going. And that's why I use mint.com. I set monthly goals for myself, especially, in the time of COVID, to keep track of my spending. So I know like, okay, like I have a monthly grocery budget of $500. Am I over or under on that? Most of the time, so I'm under. It's same with how much am I spending on alcohol in restaurants and delivery, services. Like at the end of the year, I do an audit just to see like what subscriptions do I have that I just haven't keep track of. And I've been paying for a gym that's been closed for like 4 months. So I finally got out of that contract. Just things of these natures. Subscription services are so cheap until you have 100 of them and you're paying more than cable. So my first advice is please keep track of your spending. And As an addendum to that, let's call this slide 1B, right? Well, it actually goes into slide 2. Have a separate bank account where you auto deduct into what you call a travel fund anywhere. Because if it's, I do it on the first of the month, it comes in with my first, when I get paid, when I pay myself, I send money out to a second bank account. So it's already gone. I don't even see it. And that way you have this money deducted so you can't spend it. Don't try to get one with interest, because every penny counts, even though interest rates are super low. But getting it out of sight and gets it out of mind. And once it's out of sight and out of mind, you're less likely to spend it. You're less likely to look at your main bank account and go, oh, look at all the money I have. I can spend this per month, because you don't think of that money. But the second part of this is that, the title of this is planning for a trip. So let's assume you have a specific trip in mind. You want to go to Japan in the fall. You do a little research and you realize like a flight is going to cost you like $500. You go on our website, you're going to backpack around, you realize you need like $60 a day, yada, yada, yada. You need $1,000 for the trip. Well, that seems like a lot of money, and it is. But if you break that down, per day, that's $3 a day, right? So if you could save $3 a day for the next year, $3.33, you can go to Japan in a year from now. And so the part of this that's also important is knowing how much you need creates, a daily average that is a lot mentally easier to like accomplish, right? I'm sure all of us could save $3 a day, right? So if you go back here and say, okay, I spend all this, and damn, I spend a lot of money on Starbucks. But I only need to save $3 a day. I could probably cut out my Starbucks. You find that low-hanging fruit, and we're going to go through specific tips and resources for that. But once you sort of identify where your money goes, as well as how much money you need to save per day, whether it takes you a month, 6 months, a year, or 6 years, you at least have a target to work toward. And then auto deducting that target from your bank account automatically saves you money. And then all you have to do is avoid spending that per day. And there are many ways to avoid doing that. First one, as an example of Starbucks, is cutting the coffee, right? You go to Starbucks every day, or your local shop, you spend $5, it's $150 a month, $1,800 a year. That's 2 months in Southeast Asia, right? That adds up. And it adds up over time. And I know this is like a duh example, like, okay, Matt's going to tell me all the simple things to cut. And I am. But it's the little things that we don't think about, because we know how much we need to save for rent. We know how much our phone bill costs, right? But when you're like running late to work, well, we don't run late from work. We work from home all the time. But like, you're out or whatever, it's the little things that we just grab and go for. I need a snack. I'm going to just stop into this and get a place and get a snack, right? It's like shopping when you're hungry, right? You always buy more food than you need. And in my case, I always go to Whole Foods. I'm like, well, I'm kind of hungry, so let me get a sushi roll, right? Just a snack on. But those things are like $9, right? I do that every week. I go shopping every couple of days. That's like $80 a month I'm spending money on that I could avoid spending if I just didn't shop when I was hungry. So like those kind of little things add up over time. And coffee is a great example of it. You love Starbucks, and Starbucks loves your money. So, finding brewing stuff from home, even just cutting it out. Coffee is an example of one of those spendings that adds up over time that you never really think about, right? So really, I keep this example here as just like as an example of the little things add up. $5 a day is $1,800 a year. That's 2 months that you could spend in Southeast Asia. What do you love more, Starbucks or 2 months in Southeast Asia? Probably gonna say Southeast Asia. And then the addendum to that is learn to cook. Beautiful part of quarantine is we eat out a lot less. When you're, but I found I started cooking when I was in college, and the biggest impediment to people cooking more is like, okay, yeah, eating out is more expensive than cooking, but I can't cook, right? I don't have the time to cook. Well, when we're home more, it's good. But two things that I've always found it easier to create the time to cook, because we can all cook. I mean, we can all put pasta in a pan and dump sauce on top of it, right? I mean, that takes 15 minutes. Not healthy, but you can do it. Is that I fight against this myself all the time. And I'm going to show an example of this because I am very lazy. I know it never seems like that, but trust me, I will take the easiest solution out, right? So to help that is how I do that every week. That is you can't really see it. One of it literally says salmon thing, and then like leftovers. But I literally plan out every meal because I work from home every day. And by about 5, 6 o'clock, I am bored. This is the most human interaction I usually have in a given week. So what do? I grab a book and I go to this place across the street that does $5 wines, and I sit on their patio and I read for an hour. Sometimes I have 2 wines. And then I'm like, I don't really feel like cooking anymore because I'm 2 glasses deep, and I'm gonna go get the Thai food truck across the street. But I don't do that as much, because I have a plan. And so by creating that meal calendar and shopping just for that meal calendar, you won't overshop and you'll have planned out your meals. So you're less likely to avoid, giving into Uber Eats. And the second thing I strongly advise is meal prepping. You know what I hate doing? Cooking every day, so many dishes. So I have a grill in my unit, not my apartment, in my building. And so I just grill everything at once. And that lasts me like 3 days. And I can't really stress enough. Meal prepping once can save you a lot of time throughout the week, because we all know we need to cook, and we all do cook, but it's the moment that we're the laziest that we decide to order DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever, right? And then you're like, oh, whatever, it's like $12 pad thai. But by the time it comes to you with all the fees and taxes and delivery, that pad thai is like $25, right? It's not $12. It's way more than that by the time you check out. And so avoiding those like lazy moments and sticking to saving money that you're dedicated to, putting in that meal planning and meal prep can definitely avoid doing those weakest moments. And there's plenty of meals. Like I cooked salmon for the first time in my life this week. It's crazy. I went 40 years without it, but it took me 10 minutes to do. I literally put it in an oven. I think it's the first time I've used my oven. And it was done in 10 minutes. And so 4 websites I like that can really help have really quick and easy meals. We all know Bon Appetit, but the 3 others are blogs. If you're vegan and you like pastries, there's a website, Chocolate Covered Katie. She makes lots of vegan pastries and sort of smoothies and stuff. But yeah, though I know again it's a duh thing, but really plan out your meals, and meal prepping are the 2 greatest things that will help you achieve cooking every week. And cooking is always cheaper than eating out. Saving on gas. So this is sort of very US specific. So, but here in America, lots of us have cars. Gas is expensive. Road tripping across the country for the first time in years, and at a time, when I was trying to save a lot on gas because prices were higher, I learned about Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy is an app that will show you in your area the cheapest gas. They also have a credit card where you can save 25 cents a gallon. You use it, it's a debit card, so you don't get any points. Sad face, but it saves 25 cents. But that can also be used with all, every ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, they all have their own loyalty programs. And if you're not in the States, they might actually have these loyalty programs in other countries too. So I would definitely check into that. But Shell's fuel rewards, they give you sort of 5 cents off a gallon, but you can connect your Shell, that's why I like Shell the best, Shell to your credit card. And the more you spend on that card, the more cents off per gallon. So you can just get extra 10, 25 cents off a gallon just for using your credit card. And so there are travel hackers out there who will get gas for 40 cents. But generally you can get sort of 50% off a gallon doing this stuff. And so tying Gas Buddy to these loyalty programs together can be a way to save 50 cents or more off the price of gas. And I know most of us aren't driving around as often because we don't have to go to work as often. But even if you're only gassing up once every few weeks, I still like to save money. It's the incremental things that add up over time. I mean, I bet you we can save $3 a week, or $5 a week, whatever, just on gas alone. Then get a new credit card. So travel credit cards equal points for flights and hotels, and that is free, and that saves money. So again, if you're going to Japan and you need $1,000, but it's 50,000 points to fly there round trip, and there's a brand new shiny credit card that's offering 50,000 points, you get one of those, you now have a free flight. Suddenly, you need a lot less money for your trip to Japan, or you have a lot more money for all the food you're going to eat while you're there, because you can't go to Japan and not eat a ton. It's just an impossible thing. So in this, whether you're in the US, you're in the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, even parts of Europe, there are cards out there for everybody. There's a type of card for you. There's a program for you. And again, most of these sign-up bonuses you have to spend X amount of dollars within 3 to 6 months. But there's a card with a low minimum spend. There are cards with no minimum spends. A great card out there right now, is the Chase Freedom. You get $200 after you spend $500, and you get 3 months. Most of us can spend $500 in 3 months, so you get free $200. You get it in Chase points, 20,000 points, but that is a free flight right there. So on your average, just regular spending, you can earn points over time to get free flights and accommodation. Again, a lot of people are like, well, I'm never going to spend enough on a card. It doesn't matter if it takes you a year to do it. Over time, this adds up. And it's never one for one. It's never like you spend $1 and you get 1 point, and then you have to spend $50K for a flight. No, all the good credit cards give you bonus points for this. You can shop on online portals for bonus points. There's so many ways to get a point multiplier. There are some cards that offer 6 points for every $1 you spend, right? And so, if it costs 60,000 points for a flight, oh, you got to spend 10K, but if you do that, most people do that in a year or whatever, maybe longer. But still, it's possible, right? There's always a point multiplier available, and there's always crazy offers because to get people, to do stuff, right? So get a new card because you don't want to put it this way. Every time you use a debit card, the reason you're paying for somebody like me, because all these credit cards charge a fee, which gets passed on to consumers. I get that sort of as a rebate and free flights and points. But if you use a debit card or you're using cash, you're subsidizing people with credit cards. So don't do that. Be the person with the credit card that gets a subsidy and then get free points and stuff for travel, because it definitely can like speed up the amount of time it takes to save for travel. I love so Charles Schwab. Definitely get a Schwab account. There are no fees when you travel, no ATM fees, and if you get charged an ATM fee, you get it back. Plus, they have a decent interest rate too, so you can get some interest, right? And here are some places to find similar companies overseas, in similar companies in other countries. Sure, this is not saving for money now, but $5 here, $5 there, that will add up over the course of your trip. So any time you can just bring a cost to zero, that's more money for food and drinks when you're overseas. Sign up for deals newsletters. There's always a good travel deal. So even if you're just generally don't like, okay, we use Japan for this example, but maybe you don't know where you want to go. So you're just saving money. Well, these websites here can really help you find cheap deals to use your savings to go to a destination that is really cheap to fly to right now. Scott's Cheap Flight is my favorite, but Holiday Pirates is really good if you're in the UK or Europe based. Secret Flying is good for Australia, New Zealand too, but they're all generally good. Replace your light bulbs. I mean, every little bit counts, right? So, we have lots of lights on. And so I always replace my light bulbs with energy efficient bulbs, especially because these two resources here can usually get you rebates. So it costs you like, 50 cents a dollar for a light bulb that over the course of a year will save me $100 per light bulb, right? So like I got a lot of light bulbs, so saving a few $100 a year, can go a long way. Again, a few $100, that's, a week in Southeast Asia or, a few days in Europe. So every little bit counts. So I like checking these websites because, whenever I move into a new place, I have energy efficient bulbs. But if you haven't already done this, I would definitely consider doing this. All right, coupons. I know that's like, if you think about clipping coupons, that's like a 80-year-old grandma in front of a kitchen table, on the Sunday paper, right? With scissors. But why pay full price, right? So I love the entertainment book. It's not so good now because, we're not eating out as much, but that's a big coupon book. Grocery coupons, Groupon, loyalty cards, you get the CVS card, all great ways to save money. But I always love using these 4 websites. Honey, which is a Google Chrome plugin that finds discounts for the price you're looking at. Swag Bucks, Retail Me Not, Don't Pay in Full. These are all websites I check when I decide I'm going to buy something to see, if there are discounts available. And there usually is. There's always usually a deal to be found online. So I love shopping online. One, because I never liked malls even before COVID. But when you online shop, you can use a lot of these online shopping portals through like there's credit cards and the airlines and such to get bonus points, right? So if I go through, Delta's online shopping portal, I can, get 3 Delta points for every dollar I spend, right? But I'm also getting Chase points, so I'm sort of double dipping. But then I can always use these websites to avoid paying in full. And so when next time you're thinking about like you have to buy something, look online for coupons. And some of them are even available for in-store purchases. But these 4 websites usually always have some sort of discount available to you. So never paying in full is a great way to save money for a trip. And then this also comes into sort of buying secondhand. I love Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay. I know this is sort of like a duh thing, but I also want to just remind you that it's the little things we think about that it's the obvious things we forget. And, when you are going to consume something, especially like a chair or something, you can always find a version of that somebody else has bought, but now has to get rid of, especially on Facebook Marketplace. Especially if you're looking for something from like IKEA, everybody always has IKEA furniture for sale because we all buy from IKEA and then we're like, oh, I gotta move, so I'll just sell it. So like my house is littered with IKEA furniture bought elsewhere. And then this one and this one, again, cutting back on drinking is definitely going to help. Hitting happy hours. There's 3 happy hour apps I like that can show you where there are happy hours. I know it's weird times with COVID and going out, and I don't know the situation where you live, but just keep these apps in mind for just general alcohol discounts. Stop smoking. Not only will it kill you, it will kill your wallet. So $10 a pack. Basically, if you smoke like a pack a day, or like a pack a week, it's definitely, it's a lot of money. Also, you'll die, and I don't want you to die. Last 2 tips before we get into questions. 1, start a side hustle. Okay, don't rent out your spare room right now because don't have people in your house. But driving with Lyfts, dinner with Eat With, being a task rabbit, doing tours with Get Your Guide. No matter like what your skill set is, you can do it. Teach English online. There are many, many websites out there, and it looks like somebody does teach online, judging by how their hands went up, where you can be an English teacher to someone across the world from the privacy of your own home. I just hired someone to help me teach chess, and we do it online. No matter what skill you have, you can do it through a Zoom. And there are many websites out there that you can sort of sell your expertise as a side hustle for more revenue, more money, right? And so now it's especially a good time because we're all home, and so it's not like you're going out and doing much. None of us really are, and so use that time to like sell your knowledge. Teach to be a teacher, whether it's teaching English, a guitar lesson, chess, yoga, cooking, whatever. There are plenty of websites out there where you can just create a profile and sell your knowledge. Go to a website like Elance or Upwork. Upwork is Elance is Upwork, and do online tasks for someone. Tasks for someone, like research or whatever. Plenty of opportunities to connect. And then, get a reusable water bottle. Plastic kills the environment and it kills your wallet. So I use Life Straw, but Grail is also good. Just having a reusable water bottle with a filter in it means you'll never have to buy a water bottle again. And buying water is one of those tasks, like one of those like phantom expenses that just adds up over time that you don't really think about. Like at the end of the month, you look at your credit card statement, you're like, spent $10 on water, what a waste. Don't spend $10, save the money, save the environment, and especially when you travel, right? Because if you're like traveling through Thailand, like you're drinking the tap water, right? But all that plastic just it just adds landfill and it takes out your wallet. Just have that Life Straw. All right, Q&A time. So I see in the chat where I don't know where it went now. But there were lots of questions, so we're going to take some Q&As. But for the next 20 minutes or so. But the real thing I want to share about saving money is that whatever this tip is, you're like, oh my God, that's so simple, Matt. It's the simple ones we always forget. But saving money is about knowing where you spend your money. And if you love your coffee and you refuse to give it up, you'll have to pry that Starbucks from your cold dead hands, as they say. Fine, don't give up coffee, but give up something else, right? See what it is you realize you're spending money on that's not so important to you that you could give up pretty easily. Maybe it's not coffee. Maybe it's like that happy hour you go to. Who knows? Whatever it is, tracking your spending and setting spending goals for yourself and auto deducting into other accounts. And meal prepping and meal planning are great ways to do the work up front so that during the course of the week, during the course of the month, you have created the habit in the system so that you reach your goals. Reaching your goals is all about creating a system that allows you to mindlessly do it. So you don't really have to think about it. The same way you just don't think about spending money, on the little things. Create that system so you just sort of like a money saving machine and you don't even notice you're doing it. And the first step to doing that is knowing where you spend money and then creating the goals for yourself to do it and making it as automatic as you can. Once you get into that mindset, you can prioritize what really makes you happy and you can get rid of the spending things that like you can't believe you're spending money on and you don't know why you do that each month.
Totally true. Yeah, totally true. Such good tips. I also feel like just by getting in the mindset of saving money, you save money accidentally on things that you're not even trying to save money on because you're already like in this tunnel vision. So love all the tips. We actually don't have too many questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I will
also say, to follow up on Erica, you're right. It becomes a game, right? Like if you wake up every day and say, what's one thing I can do today to save $1, right? Just one thing to save $1. Tomorrow, like after a while, and you get really good at that, you start thinking about like, could I save $2 today if I really tried? And then it becomes this sort of mental game that, really helps, gamify your life.
Mm-hmm. And also keeping track of it, I feel like is so helpful. I started with a financial coach like last year at some point. And after 3 months, she told me that I had saved $3,000 extra just by working with her. And I was like, how? I feel like I didn't even do anything. But the fact that I like had hired somebody to help me with this, it made me like think about everything I was spending, and I definitely didn't go out to eat. I definitely didn't like buy all the things I would buy because I thought like I have a financial coach. And that's how I used to do it also when I went traveling for long periods of time. I'm like, I'm going to Thailand for 4 months. Like, I'm not going out to eat. I need that money for Thailand. So it definitely like has you rethink all the purchases, not just, you know, the ones that you're consciously trying to think about. Okay, so Stacy had a question. Should I have a separate bank account that can be used internationally, or should she use cash once she's actually there?
Whenever you travel, use a credit card as much as possible. It gets you the best exchange rate and the best fraud consumer protections. You should only be using cash if like you can't. I mean, the 10 peso taco stand I went to in Mexico is not taking my Chase card. But you definitely want to use a credit card as much as possible. When you want to get cash, ideally you set up a bank account like the Schwab account that doesn't have any ATM fees. So the goal when getting cash overseas is to reduce the fees incurred from that. So if you're in the US, the obvious choice there is Charles Schwab. If you're in another country, it's whatever your version of that is. And I do know they exist. So yeah, credit card as much as possible, and then minimizing ATM fees when you are getting cash.
Mm-hmm. I personally used to just take out a bunch of cash at once so that I would only pay the fee once. And then once I got a Charles Schwab, I went to Thailand and I would take out like 100 baht at a time and feel totally fine doing that because you're paying no fees. And so you're not carrying a lot of cash, you're carrying just enough. And you can always go to the ATM. So definitely check out Charles Schwab. And then
I never think of fees. I'm always like, oh, $14 fee. I don't care.
We had a follow up about like, what if you have bad credit and you want a credit card? What are like the simple steps that you could take to go from bad credit to credit card?
Most of the credit card companies will offer a secured card, which means it's basically like their version of a debit card. You can sort of preload it. And so after a while, you sort of show that good credit, you'll be able to sort of get a credit card again. So try to get a secured card first, and that's usually the first step toward getting a credit card. Banks like Capital One and Discover tend to offer consumers with bad credit certain credit cards. They tend to be like Chase and Amex are much more restrictive in who they take. Discover and Capital One are willing to take people with lower or bad credit.
Yeah. And what about secured credit cards?
I just read about them.
But like even Chase and Amex would have a secured credit card, right?
I believe, yeah. So you can find that through them. But if they don't have one that sort of meets your needs, I'm just saying in general, Capital One and Discover tend to be a little bit more open.
Right. Okay, great. And then Heather is asking, what are the best sources that advise on credit cards? Because she worries about scammers when she sees names she doesn't recognize. Does that mean credit card names you don't recognize, Heather? Yes.
So are you worried that the credit card is a scam? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So what are the best sources that advise on credit cards? Yeah, she's worried that the credit cards are scamming her.
Where are you based?
The UK.
So like I know Amex is really popular there. That's a good one. But if you check out the website, headforpoints.com, Erica will type it in there. That's a great UK sort of credit card information portal. And so anything you find listed on that website is going to be legit.
Definitely. And then Kimberly's asking the question, do you still recommend having the Chase Sapphire Reserve with the increase in the fees? I wasn't sure if it's still worth it or not, or if an Amex is better for travel now.
I mean, the Amex has a good, I mean, unless it's the Amex Gold, but Amex Platinum is still huge fee. But that's a question only you can answer, in the sense that, they let you use the $300 credit now for like groceries. And so like the $300 travel credit you get from the reserve will automatically be used for groceries. And then you got to ask yourself, like, is the DoorDash credit worth it? I mean, that's $60 right there. So like you're getting $360 back. And then you don't use the lounge as much, but for me, it's still worth it because like I'm going to use it when travel comes back. And, I think they have like a Netflix credit or Hulu credit now too. But even with the, they have Lyft credit, and well, pre-COVID, I always took Lyft everywhere I went. So for me, the answer is yes. I still find value in that card. But if the answer for you is no, I would definitely switch cards. You basically just have to add up, like, are the savings I'm getting worth the amount I'm paying? And when do you think you'll lose that? Because once you get rid of it, you can't really get it back. You can reapply for it, but if you've applied for more than 5 cards in 24 months, you're over Chase's 524, so they won't accept you. And once you reapply for it, you're not going to get the bonus. And so for me, it's always worth it. But in any credit card situation that has a fee, you're wondering, is that fee worth it? That is a determination you have to make based on like, how much do I value the perks? In the next year, will I use those perks? And if the answer is no, definitely switch off.
Great. Let's see. Kimberly's asking, do you know if it's more expensive to get money out of an ATM at the airport versus somewhere else?
ATM fees vary by ATM. So generally, airports do have higher ATM fees, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the case 100% of the time. So again, you want to just look for a card that has no fees. So it's not even something you even think about.
Mm-hmm. Great. Tatiana's asking, when planning a big trip, how granular do you get with your budget? Like, do you say this amount for lodging, this amount for food, this amount for country A, this amount for country B?
Yes, to all of that. In the sense that, like, I definitely plan out, if I'm taking a multi-month trip, I definitely look at what's the average cost of all that in each country to get a rough idea as to how much I'm going to spend. My situation is a little different because I write to figure out that for a lot of countries, but generally you would want to look at all that for each country to get like sort of a rough estimate. And then I always say I would pad whatever number you come up with by 10%, because everything always costs more than you think it does. So if you think your trip is going to cost $1,000, I'd bring $1,100. And so I always add another 10% onto that. But you'll definitely want to get an average price of everything within that country, and that can help you create a daily budget.
I am just dropping in the chat the destination guides that you have on your site, Matt, because I know that you include a lot of money and also some averages for daily spending in different places, depending on if you're going like super budget, moderate, or luxury. So there you go.
And another thing, when you're thinking about budgets for places, think about what you like. back in the day, I will literally sleep anywhere to have more money on food. And I'll still kind of sleep anywhere on food. But I know I don't really like dorm rooms. So, I have to budget more accordingly for, Airbnbs or hotels. I like to go to bars when I travel. So my alcohol budget is slightly bigger. But transportation, I take public transportation everywhere I go. So like whatever the cost of like metro tickets are, that's how much I budget for. I never take taxis. I don't like, I avoid Uber unless it's very late at night. Public transportation, or as you can see from my Instagram, I am the person that's like, it's only 7,000 miles. We can walk it.
Bernardo was in the Asia happy hour call this morning, and they were saying that they wanted to meet you, and I say just stay in hostels because you'll always meet Matt. That's where everyone finds you on the road. Okay, we have some questions about flights, and then we're gonna wrap up. So is there a certain time of the day or week to book a flight at a cheaper rate? And then what sites do you actually like to use when you do that?
Not anymore. It used to be, book on Tuesday, because that's when airlines used to drop their fares. And yeah, but airlines, like everybody else, uses computer algorithms to figure out flight pricing. So fares tend to be cheaper on the weekend at night because the computer's like, oh, not as many people are searching for it. But generally, there's no like day of the week or time of the day that is cheaper. Generally, you want to book like a U.S. domestic flight a month, 4 to 6 weeks out, and international like 3 to 4 months out. Because there's so many seats, there's so many fare classes, and then as airlines sell the cheaper fares, prices get higher. And so based on how full the plane is, the time of year, what is demand, what's historical demand look like, are there events going on, are there graduations? Airlines, they know what. There's no event in a city that an airline doesn't know about. And if it's a big one, they're raising prices. So there's no time or day or week. There's just general like weeks before. And I would always look for, this is especially true for Europe, US, Canada, round trips, regardless of where your origin is for that. Is that look at booking, even if you want to go one way, look at booking a round trip, because airline systems still consider one-way travel something only business people do, not leisure travelers. And so they book higher. So you can, you might find New York, London one way for like, $1,000, but round trip is like $250. And so you just book round trip and then get rid of the other ticket. So definitely consider, even if you want to go one way to any destination, look at the round trip price. And
you want to book one ticket at a time, right? So if you're going with 3 people, you want to book one ticket at a time. Is that true?
If you're going with groups, I would definitely play like how much is 3 tickets, and then go see how much one ticket is, and then times it by 3, because airlines have different fare classes. So if there are 3 tickets available and 2 are in a cheap fare class and 1 is in the expensive fare class, it will price the other 2 in the highest fare class possible.
Yep. But if you're doing that, make sure you do it at like the exact same minute so you don't lose those flights if you're gonna book them separately. Okay, the last question I'm gonna ask is Mia's asking, Matt, before you became a travel blogging superstar, what was your favorite side hustle? I'm gonna add like when you were traveling and paying for your travels.
I was an English teacher. I taught English in Thailand and Taiwan. And that's how I managed to stay on the road before I did this full time.
Wonderful. Great. You guys are amazing. What a chat today. What a chat. Very lively. Lots of tips in there. I also want to shout out Matt, who's our chapter leader for Toronto, was actually saying that Meal Line is how he uses was what he uses to plan his meals out, and it saves.
Oh, I use that app too. Great app. Meal Line.
Great. I'm gonna share my screen really quickly, just to close it out. For those of you who this was your first event, welcome. And also the nomadicnetwork.com/events has all of our events. Right now, we're actually offering 3 different kinds of events. One is just like this, where somebody presents on a specific topic. Then we also have happy hours that are regional. And so you can go to them if you're, if you live close to them, or if you're interested in them. We had one in Asia this morning, and we had some people show up that just were interested in traveling to Asia. So it was very cool. And we also have book clubs. Just to highlight a few that are happening this week, we're having Susan come on, who's going to teach us how to plan a culinary focused trip that supports local communities. That's tomorrow, same time. There's no inauguration tomorrow, so we're okay. And then next week, we have Krista, who's on the call today, and she's going to be actually teaching us how to explore the national parks in the US. She's been to so many of them, so we asked her to come and teach on that. And then if you're a blogger, we have Natanya, or blogger, or anyone in that space. We have Natanya, who's going to talk about working with brands and how to do that well. And then we also have on January 28th, a talk all about Namibia and how to plan a trip to Namibia with 2 speakers. So we're very excited about that. And then on Wednesday, February 3rd, we're having Don George come, and he's going to talk all about his book, The Way of Wanderlust.
That's our monthly book club, so be sure to enjoy it. Every month we have an author, a travel writer, come on and talk about their book. So it's a great way to talk to travel writers you love. So anyways, back in there.
Like behind the scenes. It's very cool. So Don, and if you haven't met Don George, he's like a breath of fresh air, like a ray of sunshine. So we're very excited to have him on. We would also love to re-invite you to become a Patreon member with us. That's at patreon.com/nomadic Matt. Again, this is where you can access all the event replays and a bunch of different goodies. And before we sign off, Matt and I actually decided that we wanted to give away a few books. Since this is an awesome community and you guys are actually here instead of watching the president, that's okay. We're very excited to have you here. And we have 3 of these books. And it's the How to Travel the World on $50 a Day, the latest version. And it has lots of cost-cutting techniques and all that sort of stuff. We can only ship to the US addresses. So for people that want this book, why don't you write in the chat right now where you would love to go, once lockdown ends, and how a book like this would help you, and I'll pick it before we end today. If you want this, you're not in the US, we can also offer you a guide. So we'll give away 2 guides and 3 books. So if you're not in the US, feel free to also interact and play. And then, just thank you for being a part of our community. Always. We love having you here. We love putting on these events for you. We love having Matt come. It's really fun to interact with the community. So we really just thank you for showing up. Anything else, Matt?
Nope. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you at the next chat. And again, this will be recorded and sent out. And Erica will let you know who wins all the books.
Awesome.